Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. The scandal widens. JP Morgan and manipulation. Bigger names are being charged. Let's find out what's going on. Yes, this comes to us from Bloomberg, and someone had posted a comment on a video talking about it, making some mention of it. And Silver Heist sent me this article from Bloomberg. JP Morgan's metals desk was a criminal enterprise. This has got the attention of the U.S. government, so much so that the U.S. is invoking a racketeering law and charging 3 precious metal traders, and these are bigger names. Now, before I continue, you know, I've covered stories about this in the past, but I almost dismissed them because spoofing or manipulation of short selling and the like has been going on, not just in the precious metal markets, but in pretty much all the commodities or any kind of stock trading. There is that kind of manipulation that does happen on a shorter scale, but this is widespread apparently from what the charges are, and has been going on for at least 8 years. So let's explore this and see what's going on. It's a wider net cast, apparently. The U.S. prosecutors took an unusually aggressive turn in their investigation of price fixing at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, describing its precious metals trading desk as a criminal enterprise operating inside the bank for nearly a decade. The prosecutors charged the head of J.P. Morgan's global precious metals trading operation and 2 others on Monday, accusing them of conspiracy to conduct the affairs of an enterprise involved in interstate or foreign commerce through a pattern of racketeering activity. That's huge. That's a reference to the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, a law often used against organized crime rings. The U.S. has rarely invoked RICO law in big bank cases. Its use suggests that J.P. Morgan may face deeper legal jeopardy going beyond the several individuals who have already been prosecuted. You've heard me talk about those in prior videos. Former prosecutors agree the move was bold, with at least one questioning whether the Justice Department was overreaching. Others said the use of RICO was merited given the complexity and duration of the manipulation, echoing the U.S. official who announced the charges Monday morning. Based on the fact that it was conduct that was widespread on the desk, it was engaged in thousands of episodes over an 8-year period. That is precisely the kind of conduct that the RICO statute is meant to punish, Assistant Attorney General Brian Benczkowski told journalists. We're going to follow the facts wherever they lead, whether it's across desk here or at any other bank or upwards into the financial institution. Wow. Peter Carr, a Justice Department spokesman, said that the RICO law has been invoked in cases involving small trading operations and in corporate conduct cases. But he and several former prosecutors said they couldn't recall another use of the law to prosecute traders at a big bank. This case differs from previous market rigging cases in other ways too, including the number of bank personnel who have been implicated by the government. J.P. Morgan pleaded guilty in 2015 investigation of price fixing in currency markets, a matter in which one of the bank's traders was charged. In the metals manipulation matter, more than a dozen people participated in the scheme, prosecutors said. 2 of them have pleaded guilty and are cooperating with authorities. And those are the 2 videos that I covered about this before. And they said that it could, they were just basically doing it with full knowledge of their superiors and that they were involved. Well, turning out that there's enough to charge now. The others. The head of the bank's global precious metals desk, Michael Nowak, age 45, and 2 others ripped off market participants and even clients as they illegally moved prices for gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, the Justice Department said Monday. Nowak was placed on leave last month. A person familiar with the matter has said the other traders charged were Greg Smith, 55, and Christopher Jordan, age 47. And that is quite interesting. They moved prices for gold, silver, and platinum and palladium. That still tells me that it is doing it for purchases at the time, or they were to move it at the time for the short selling. In other words, like you think about it like you put a glass in the bathtub and it displaces the water for a moment, the glass is moved and water comes right back in. In other words, I don't know even though this is being widespread and happening, it's still, I think, related to the short markets. In other words, it's just for a brief period of time where they can make their purchases and then get out. JP Morgan declined to comment. Smith and Jordan did not respond to requests for comment. So there's a common theme that we've seen in all of the stories with regards to JP Morgan. They declined to comment. Nowak has done nothing wrong, and it's truly regrettable that the DOJ decided to go forward with a prosecution of him, and has said his attorneys, David Meister and Jocelyn Strauber of Skadden Arps, Slate, Mauger, and Flom, LLP. The indictments, which come after the government lost 2 manipulation cases in court, are a good indication that prosecutors are undeterred and are becoming more, not less, aggressive in cracking down on market manipulation, said Benjamin Singer, former head of the Justice Department Securities Fraud Unit, who is now at O'Mel Venny and Myers LLP in Washington. Ex-prosecutor Justin Weddle and the Justice Department was doubling down on already aggressive efforts to crack down on spoofing, the practice of making buy and sell orders for precious metal futures contracts with the intent to cancel those orders before execution. Market spoofing was criminalized only in 2011. It's not obvious to me how the RICO charges satisfy the department's internal guidelines, saying that the criminal division will not approve imaginative prosecutions under RICO, which are far afield from the congressional purpose of the RICO statute, said Weedle of Weedle Law plc. Prosecutors said that the 3 men charged on Monday placed fraudulent orders electronically and by phone calls to the floor brokers in trading pits. They were able to generate millions of dollars in trading profits for themselves and JP Morgan and caused millions of losses for counterparties, prosecutors said. The practice began before JP Morgan's May 2008 purchase of Bear Stearns and grew even larger after the acquisition, said U.S. Said Jordan also engaged in manipulation while with Credit Suisse Group AG for about 6 months in 2010, prosecutors said. Credit Suisse declined to comment. The banks weren't identified in the filings, but their descriptions matched those of JP Morgan, Bear Stearns, and Credit Suisse. Jordan and Smith also lied to law enforcement investigators and bank compliance officers for years. According to the indictment, in 2010, Jordan intentionally lied to an investigator for the Commodity Futures Trading Commission about manipulation of silver prices, while Smith lied 3 years later to a CME Group investigator about his trading practices, it said. Nowak and Jordan also lied on annual statements certifying that they were in compliance with JP Morgan's Code of Conduct in 2008-2009, while Smith lied in 2009 and 2010. Smith is expected to make an initial appearance Monday in federal court in New York, and Nowak and Jordan will appear in federal court in New Jersey. The case is brought in federal court to Chicago. The JP Morgan investigation grew out of a multi-bank U.S. crackdown on manipulation of commodities markets using techniques including spoofing, in which traders place orders without intending to execute them or try to move prices in their favor. The Justice Department already brought criminal charges against 16 people, including traders who worked for Deutsche Bank and UBS Group. 7 pleaded guilty, 1 was convicted at trial, and another was acquitted. So let's explore this a little bit, because I think it's fascinating. This gives us, it's such a big story that even CNN, of all places, is covering it, including the part here where JP Morgan declined to comment. But it's a very interesting indeed to see how this is all coming together. But let's take a look at this And for what it is, if it's the short trading where we're doing these with no intention of buying it, where they're spoofing these orders, to me that's short-term manipulation. In other words, the water's going to come back in, and the natural market's going to eventually take over once it's done. And now it's happening enough to trick other traders into buying and selling futures contracts at prices and at times where they wouldn't have otherwise done so. That's the way it is to do. That's the purpose. That can only happen so often unless they're doing it consistently. But my guess is it's probably not happening nearly as much because obviously they've got enough evidence to charge these people, and they're gone. They replace and leave, and that maybe is that one of those things where that's causing the prices to go up. I don't know. My guess is this probably has some effect, but not probably as much as some people would say. In other words, if everybody is charged and convicted of this, and it's still happening at some level, it's probably not to this scale by these bigger banks. And my guess is it's relatively negligible in the long term of where the prices are. Does not mean it should be excused, and it should not be considered. But if this is happening, then I believe that even as such, and I believe that before. I believe that a lot of people get away with a lot of things in many different markets. But nonetheless, I believe the greater movers of prices with the precious metals happen based off of natural market conditions. But nonetheless, I'm glad that justice is now the wheels of justice are starting to move forward here. And we'll see how this all plays out. And if so, they should be prosecuted, obviously. And there should be better tools to recognize this and stop it as it happens in the markets. Very interesting indeed. Thanks to those who had alerted me to this or talked about it. And this news literally is just kind of breaking today as of the recording of this video about the actual charges being levied forward here. Very fascinating indeed. Post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude y'all for watching and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.